a colleague of mine was actually undercover at a Trump rally. And my first thought in the back of my mind was, I wouldn't be allowed to actually sneak into this rally without being immediately called out as a reporter. That was my joke. It was because I was a reporter, they would immediately call me out. So seeing these two warriors in the movement actually take the time to divest is encouraging for everybody. There's actually the next level change going on, because 2 people divesting becomes 4 people, it becomes 6 people, and like you said, it's had $1 billion impact.
So asking for the city and the budget office basically to move that money out of Wells Fargo.
And that's really what we need to be doing, is bringing awareness so that people will actually jump over that line and shut some of these systems down.
So that resolution is being introduced tomorrow. We have a number of co-sponsors that we're expecting to jump on immediately, and then we'll be continuing to do actions and putting pressure on other council members also to stand with their local communities who are in favor of taking money out.
I mean, really, I can't say it enough. Actually meeting with the city officials, attacking the hill, so to speak, and pushing these things forward is exactly where this movement needs to go. This is C for Truth Against the Machine, and we're outside of the John A. Wilson building here in Washington, D.C. And we're here because the crew has been trying to get D.C. to cut ties, essentially, with Wells Fargo because of their investment into the Dakota Access Pipeline. But they're doing more than just protest and rally and doing the very important other steps of taking their money personally out of these accounts. They've actually introduced a motion, or they hope the City Hall will introduce a motion today to cut ties with Wells Fargo, something that Seattle and San Francisco has already done. And they've been successful to have City Hall present that motion today, and so they're going to be here in solidarity to root that action on. This is the next step of what really these protests and rallies and other demonstrations should be leading up to. It's actual change against the machine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I have 2 bills to introduce. Today, along with my colleagues, Council Members Allen, Nadeau, Bonds, and Silverman, I am introducing the Sense of the Council urging reassessment of the relationship with Wells Fargo Resolution of 2017. For years, Wells Fargo has been plagued with allegations of racial discrimination in lending practices, leading to some of the largest settlements in recent memory. Recently, the financial institution has come under scrutiny for its involvement in financing the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline and highly questionable sales practices. In a report published by In the Public Interest, it was found that Wells Fargo is one of the private prison industry's most dedicated lenders. In light of the myriad allegations against Wells Fargo, several cities across the country, including San Francisco, California, Tacoma Park, Maryland, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Seattle, Washington, and others, have moved to divest or explore divesting from Wells Fargo. The District of Columbia has long sought to protect the city's interests and public's trust by managing and spending city funds in a fiscally responsible and prudent manner. As Wells Fargo is the District of Columbia's bank of record, I believe we have an obligation to fully assess our relationship with Wells Fargo and strongly consider divestment. We should prioritize partnerships with business entities and financial institutions that are committed to engaging in fair and responsible business practices, and we should fully commit to reinvesting in local banks to support our community growth. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the remainder of my time to my co-introducers, and I welcome any co-sponsors. I also ask that this bill be referred to a committee so that there is a possibility for a hearing to be held on it.
Thank you, Councilmember Grosso. Are there co-sponsors for this legislation? Councilmember Gray, I'm sorry, I didn't see you as a co-sponsor. This measure will be referred to the Committee on Finance and Revenue. Further, Mr. Grosso?
Yes, thank you. Today, along with my colleagues, council members Charles Allen, Alyssa Silverman, Robert White, Mary Che, Kenyon McDuffie, Trayon White, Chairman Mendelson, and Brianne Nadeau, I am reintroducing the Fair Elections Act of 2017.
You just introduced a motion to disconnect Wells Fargo from D.C. essentially, and you also introduced a motion to take, money out of politics. You're really a hero of this movement because that's something that is considered brave to do those types of things.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't feel like a hero. I'm simply doing what I think I was elected to do, and that's stand up for human rights, stand up for the people, just all over the country, not just here in the District of Columbia. So, I've asked D.C. To do its part and to divest from Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo has a long history of bad practices, from redlining particular communities when it comes to home loans or to other types of loans, or even any banking at all, as well as divest because of what they're happening with the Dakota pipeline. I mean, this is a big problem. They're investing up there in that pipeline and undercutting the availability of clean water source for people who are living in that area, especially our Native American community. So this is the time to divest. I think we have to stand up for it and do the right thing. My public financing legislation is a bill that I've been working on for many years. I'm excited that I have 9 co-introducers this year, which is a big step forward. It is essentially a low dollar match bill that will mean that everybody in the community will have a stronger say in what happens in elections. So as a campaign veteran, somebody who's run a few campaigns now, it's really hard to convince somebody that their $10 or $100 donation to my campaign is going to make a huge difference moving forward. But if I could say to them, your $100 will be matched by the government 5 times, that changes the conversation. It shows them that they're important too, and that their message is going to get out there. And so we're hoping to move both these bills forward here in the next few months. Hopefully both committees will hold hearings, engage in a public conversation, and move them forward, and really stand up for what's right. Stand up for everyday working people, for our communities and our neighborhoods, but also stand up for the human rights of everybody.
And can you give a quick shout out to just some of the other people that we really want to thank, and have people send emails and letters and phone calls so that we know who our allies are in this movement?
Well, I'm really excited to be joined by Councilmember White, Councilmember Silverman, Councilmember Nadeau, and Councilmember Allen in this effort on divesting from Wells Fargo. This is one of those huge institutions that steps all over people on a regular basis. It's time to the District of Columbia to lead the way as the nation's capital and divest and say we're not going to do it anymore, and invest instead in our community banks, invest in the people of the District of Columbia, perhaps even invest in opening a public bank here in D.C. that would allow us to invest in small businesses, in individuals, in other businesses across the city.
Well, I used to love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and but the first person who put peanut butter with jelly probably looked like a crazy person. Taking those first steps and saying this is what needs to be done. We're following, hopefully, Seattle and San Francisco and other jurisdictions in taking this action. It's not pie in the sky. It's peanut butter and jelly. We're going to make a beautiful sandwich, and we hope you join this revolution.
It's time.
It's time. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Here on the local level, we're working with principally Councilmember Grosso, but also actually a handful of other council members who have been extremely supportive of doing everything we can at the local level to take our money as a city out of the pockets of the oil-rich companies and investors that are backing the Dakota Access Pipeline.